The sun rose over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. In the heart of Victoria Island stood a mansion that gleamed like a jewel, surrounded by tall palm trees and manicured gardens. This was the home of Chukwudi Okonkwo, one of Nigeria's wealthiest oil magnates. But despite all his wealth, his heart carried a weight that money could not lift. His wife, Adiz, had died 4 years ago during childbirth, leaving him alone with their daughter, Chioma. The little girl was now 6 years old, full of energy and questions, with bright eyes that reminded him every day of the woman he had lost. Chioma needed someone to care for her, to braid her hair, to teach her Igbo songs, and to hold her when the nightmares came. Chukwudi had tried nannies before. Many of them. Some lasted weeks, others only days. None of them understood Chioma's moods or knew how to make her laugh the way her mother once did. So on a humid Thursday morning, Chukwudi sat in his study, adjusting his agbada as he waited for another interview. His assistant had told him about a young woman from Enugu, someone special, someone different. Her name was Amara. When she walked through the door, Chukwudi noticed everything at once. She wore a simple Ankara dress in blue and yellow patterns. Her hair was neatly braided in cornrows, and she carried herself with quiet dignity. Her smile was warm, but not overeager, genuine, but not forced. "Good morning, sir," she said, her voice soft and respectful. "Thank you for this opportunity." Chukwudi gestured to the chair across from him. "Please sit. Tell me, Amara, why do you want this position?" Amara folded her hands in her lap, her eyes meeting his with honesty. "Because children are blessings from God, sir. After my parents died in a car accident, I raised my younger brother from the age of 12. I know what it means to care for someone who depends on you completely. I understand the responsibility and the love it requires." Her words struck something deep within him. There was no rehearsed speech, no empty promises. Just truth, spoken simply. Before he could respond, a small voice called from the hallway. "Papa, is that my new nanny?" Chioma peeked around the doorframe, her curious eyes studying the stranger. Amara turned and smiled. "Perhaps, if your papa agrees." Chioma stepped into the room shyly, clutching her favorite doll. "Can you tell stories? My mama used to tell me stories about the tortoise and the leopard." "I know many stories," Amara said gently. "Would you like to hear one now?" Chioma nodded eagerly and climbed onto the chair beside Amara. Within minutes, Amara was weaving a tale about Anansi the spider and the wisdom pot, her hands moving expressively as Chioma giggled with delight. Chukwudi watched them, feeling something stir in his chest that he hadn't felt in years. Hope, perhaps, or peace. When the story ended, he made his decision. "You're hired, Amara. Can you start tomorrow?" Amara's face lit up. "Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I promise you won't regret this." That evening, Amara returned to the small flat she shared with her twin sister, Adora, in Suralere. The apartment was modest, with peeling paint and a ceiling fan that rattled, but it was home. Adora looked up from where she was pounding yam in the kitchen. She was identical to Amara in every physical way. Same smooth dark skin, same high cheekbones, same full lips. But their personalities were as different as sun and moon. Where Amara was gentle and thoughtful, Adora was bold and playful, always quick with a joke or a tease. "How did it go?" Adora asked, wiping her hands on her wrapper. "I got the job," Amara said, unable to contain her smile. "Finally, Adora, steady income. We can pay off Mama's hospital bills." Adora hugged her sister tightly. "I told you, God answers prayers, my sister. When you start? Tomorrow morning at 8. "And the man? What's he like?" Amara felt her cheeks warm slightly. "He's serious, reserved, but kind. His daughter is sweet, just 6 years old and missing her mother." Adora grinned mischievously. "But is he handsome?" "Adora!" Amara laughed, shaking her head. "That's not important." "Everything is important," Adora teased. "Maybe this job will bring you more than just money. Maybe it will bring you love." Amara rolled her eyes but smiled. "I just want stability, sister. That's all I need." But stability proved fragile. The next morning, As Amara rushed to prepare breakfast before leaving, she didn't see the puddle of water near the stove. Her foot slipped, and she crashed to the floor, a sharp pain shooting through her ankle. "Ah!" she cried out, clutching her leg. Adora rushed in from the bedroom. "Amara, what happened?" "My ankle." Amara gasped through tears. "I think I've sprained it badly." "Oh God." "Adora, today is my first day. I can't walk." Panic filled both their faces. They couldn't afford to lose this job. Not after all the rejection letters. Not after pawning their mother's jewelry just to pay rent. Amara grabbed her sister's hand. "Adora, you have to go in my place." "What?" Adora's eyes widened. "You want me to pretend to be you? Just for today?" Amara pleaded. "Remember when we were children? We used to switch places all the time. No one ever noticed. Please, sister. Just one day until I can walk again." Adora hesitated, biting her lip. But when she saw the desperation in her sister's eyes, she nodded slowly. "One day. That's all. But you owe me suya for a month." Amara managed a weak smile. "Deal. Just remember, be gentle, be patient with Chioma, and address him as sir, always respectful." Adora changed into Amara's interview dress, braided her hair the same way, and practiced her sister's soft voice. "Good morning, sir. How may I help you today?" Amara giggled despite the pain. "Perfect. Now go before you're late." At exactly 8 o'clock, the mansion's gate opened, and Adora stepped into a world she had only dreamed of. The house was enormous, with marble floors, high ceilings, and artwork on every wall. A houseboy showed her to the living room where Chikwudi was reading the morning newspaper. He looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Amara." "Welcome." "Good morning, sir," Adora replied, trying to keep her voice steady even though her heart was racing. Before she could say more, Chioma came running down the grand staircase, her school uniform slightly crooked. You came. She threw her arms around Adora, who laughed and hugged her back. The warmth of the child's embrace surprised her. "Of course I came," Adora said. "I made a promise, didn't I?" Chikwudi watched them with quiet satisfaction. "Chioma needs to eat breakfast before school. Can you manage that?" "Yes, sir." In the kitchen, Adora found everything labeled and organized. She prepared akamu and akara, humming as she worked. When Chioma came to sit at the table, Adora made faces that sent the little girl into fits of laughter. "You're funny, Miss Amara," Chioma giggled. "Life is too short to be serious all the time," Adora said with a wink. After Chioma left for school with the driver, Adora cleaned the house, folded laundry, and prepared lunch. She found herself enjoying the work, the rhythm of it, the beauty of the surroundings. And when Chikwudi passed through the hallway, she greeted him with a bright smile. He paused, something flickering in his eyes. "You seem happy. It's a beautiful day, sir. Why shouldn't I be?" He nodded slowly, a small smile forming on his lips. There was something different about her today, something brighter, but he couldn't quite place it. That evening, after Chioma returned from school, Adora helped her with homework, drew pictures with her, and taught her a clapping game that made them both laugh until their stomachs hurt. Chikwudi heard the laughter from his office upstairs and found himself walking toward it. He stood in the doorway, watching as his daughter's face glowed with joy, something he hadn't seen in so long. When Adora noticed him, she smiled that bright, unguarded smile again. "She's very smart, your daughter," Adora said. "She finished all her mathematics in half the time." "She takes after her mother," Chikwudi said softly. An understanding passed between them, a moment of shared grief and hope. That night, after tucking Chioma into bed, Adora called her sister. "How did it go?" Amara asked anxiously. "Wonderful," Adora admitted. "The house is like a palace, and Chioma, oh Amara, she's such a precious child. And Mr. Okonkwo, he's kind but so sad. You can see it in his eyes." "Be careful, Adora," Amara warned gently. "Just one more day, then I'll take over." "Yes, one more day," Adora agreed. But one day became 2, then 3, then a week. Each morning, Amara's ankle was still too swollen to walk properly. Each evening, Adora found herself more attached to the little girl who called her Miss Amara and to the man who smiled more each day. She loved watching Chioma's confidence grow, loved how she would run to greet her each morning. In Chikwudi, he had started lingering in rooms where she worked, asking her opinion on small things, sharing stories about his daughter. One afternoon, while Chioma was napping, Chikwudi found Adora in the garden, tending to the hibiscus flowers. "You have a gift with plants," he observed. She looked up, shielding her eyes from the sun. "My mother had a small garden. She taught me that even the smallest flower deserves care." Wise woman. She was, Adora said softly. "We lost her 2 years ago." "I'm sorry," Chikwudi said, genuine sympathy in his voice. "Loss changes us, doesn't it?" "It does. But it also teaches us to appreciate what remains." He studied her for a long moment. "You're different from what I expected, Amara." Adora's heart skipped. "How so? I thought you'd be quiet, reserved. But you have this light about you. You make everything feel alive again." She didn't know how to respond to that, so she simply smiled and returned to the flowers, her heart pounding. By the end of the second week, Amara was finally able to walk without pain. She called her sister that evening. "I can come back tomorrow," she said. "Your ankle is fine now." There was a long pause on the other end. "Adora?" "Yes," her sister said quietly. "Yes, of course. Tomorrow." But that night, Adora lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She had never meant to care so much. She had never meant to feel this way about a man she was deceiving, about a child who thought she was someone else. The next morning, Amara limped into the mansion, her bag over her shoulder. She wore the same Ankara dress, had braided her hair the same way, and carried herself with her usual gentle grace. "Good morning, sir," she said softly when she saw Chikwudi in the hallway. He turned, and for a moment, confusion crossed his face. "Good morning, Amara. You're here early." "Early?" She blinked. "Isn't it 8 o'clock?" "Yes, but you usually arrive at 9 these days." Amara recovered quickly. "Oh yes. I had some things to sort out these past weeks. But everything is settled now." He nodded slowly, still looking puzzled. When Chioma came downstairs, she ran to hug Amara, but then stopped, tilting her head. "Miss Amara, you sound different today." Amara laughed nervously. "Maybe I'm just tired, dear." But Chikwudi noticed too. Throughout the day, he watched her carefully. The woman who had filled his home with laughter, who had challenged him with playful banter, who had made even mundane moments feel special, now seemed quieter, more careful, almost shy. When he tried to joke with her as he had before, she only smiled politely. When he asked her opinion, she deferred to his judgment. And somehow, the warmth that had been building in his chest began to cool. That night, as he sat in his study with a glass of whiskey, Chioma came to him in her nightgown. "Papa," she said, climbing onto his lap. "I don't think Miss Amara is feeling well." "Why do you say that, my princess?" She forgot how to laugh today. Chikwudi kissed her forehead. Maybe she's just tired. But he knew Chioma was right. Something had changed, and he didn't understand what. The following days were quiet and orderly. Amara cooked nutritious meals, kept the house spotless, helped Chioma with her studies, and maintained a respectful distance. She was everything a good nanny should be. Professional, capable, kind. But the magic was gone. Chikwudi found himself missing the spontaneous laughter, the silly songs, the way she used to challenge his serious moods with gentle teasing. He didn't know that the woman he had grown to care for was sitting in a small flat in Suralere, missing him and Chioma just as much. Then one evening, everything changed. Chioma had been running a high fever all day. The doctor had come and declared it a severe flu, prescribing rest and medication. But as night fell, the fever spiked, and Chioma became delirious, crying for her nanny. "I want Miss Amara," she wept. "The one who tells funny stories." "Please, Papa." Amara stood helplessly by the bed, not understanding. Chikwudi, exhausted and worried, simply stroked his daughter's hair. Later that night, after Chioma finally fell into a fitful sleep, Amara stepped into the hallway and called her sister with trembling hands. "Adora, Chioma is very sick. She keeps asking for you." "What? Is she all right?" "The doctor says she'll recover, but she won't stop crying for the other Amara." "For you." There was silence. Then Adora spoke firmly. "I'm coming." "No, you can't." If he sees both of us. I don't care anymore, sister. That child needs me, and I need to see her. 2 hours later, dressed exactly like her sister, Adora slipped past the night guard who barely glanced at her, assuming she had forgotten something. She found Chakotay dozing in a chair beside Chioma's bed. The little girl was restless, whimpering in her sleep. You came back, Chakotay said, startled awake. Adora's heart ached at the sight of him, tired and worried. I had to. How is she? Fever keeps coming back. She's been asking for you all evening. Adora moved to the bed and gently brushed Chioma's forehead. The little girl's eyes fluttered open. Miss Amara, she whispered. I'm here, my love. Chioma's face relaxed into a smile. You came back. I knew you would. Always, Adora whispered, fighting tears. Chakotay watched them, and suddenly everything became clear. The way she moved, the way she spoke, the brightness in her eyes. This was the woman who had transformed his home. This was the Amara he had fallen for. But she couldn't be. Could she? Over the next few hours, Adora stayed by Chioma's side, singing Igbo lullabies, telling quiet stories, cooling her forehead with damp cloths. Slowly, the fever began to break. When Chioma finally fell into peaceful sleep, Chakotay gestured for Adora to follow him to the balcony. Under the night sky, with Lagos lights twinkling below, he turned to her. Tell me the truth, he said gently. Please. Adora's eyes filled with tears. She had known this moment would come, had dreaded it, but there was no more hiding. My name is Adora, she whispered. Amara is my twin sister. Chakotay closed his eyes, processing this. The first day, I came in her place because she injured her ankle. It was supposed to be just one day, but then one day became two, became a week. We never meant to deceive you. We were just trying to survive. So everything, all those moments, that was you? Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Every laugh, every story, every moment with Chioma. That was me, and I'm so sorry. I should have told you, but I was afraid. Afraid of what? That you would hate me? That I would lose Chioma? That I would lose? She couldn't finish. Lose me? He asked softly. She nodded, unable to speak. Chakotay was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm. I should be angry. You lied to me, put my daughter's care in question, made me doubt my own judgment. I know, Adora sobbed. I'm so sorry. But I'm not angry, he continued, turning to face her. Because everything you did out of love. For your sister, for Chioma, even for me. I see that now. She looked up at him, hope and fear mingling in her eyes. The woman I fell in love with wasn't a lie, was she? He asked. The laughter, the kindness, the way you brought light back into this house, that was real. Every moment was real, she said firmly. My name might have been wrong, but everything else was true. He stepped closer. Then let me ask you something. The real you, Adora. Can you look me in the eyes and tell me what you feel? She met his gaze, her voice trembling but honest. I love you. I love Chioma. I never planned to, never expected to, but I do. And it terrifies me because I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you. That's where you're wrong, Chakotay said, reaching for her hand. You deserve everything. You deserve honesty, which I'm giving you now. You deserve love, which I'm offering you now. And Chioma deserves a mother who will fight for her, which you've already proven you are. But I lied to you, and now you've told the truth. That's what matters. He cupped her face gently. We've both been living in shadows, Adora. Maybe it's time we stepped into the light together. Before she could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. Miss Adora. They turned to see Chioma standing there, holding her doll, looking much better. You know my real name? Adora asked, surprised. Chioma nodded. I heard you talking. Are you leaving again? Adora knelt down. Would you want me to stay? Forever, Chioma said simply, walking into her arms. Over the next few days, Amara and Adora visited the mansion together. Chakotay finally saw them side by side, amazed at how identical yet different they were. Amara was reserved and thoughtful, while Adora sparkled with energy and warmth. I'm sorry for the confusion I caused, Amara said sincerely. I should have been honest from the start. Chakotay smiled. You were trying to protect your family. I understand that. And in the end, you brought me the greatest gift, your sister. Amara looked at Adora, who blushed. She's the brave one, always has been. And you're the wise one, Adora countered. We balance each other. Like the sun and the moon, Chioma declared, making them all laugh. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning bright with promise, the Okonkwo mansion was decorated with white and gold flowers. Family and friends gathered in the garden where Chakotay and Adora would exchange their vows. Amara stood as maid of honor, tears of joy in her eyes as she watched her sister marry the man who had seen past the deception to the truth beneath. Chioma was the flower girl, scattering rose petals with such enthusiasm that everyone laughed. When Chakotay placed the ring on Adeora's finger, he said, I fell in love with my daughter's nanny. But she wasn't who I thought she was. She was better. She was brave enough to show up twice, to love when it was risky, to tell the truth when it mattered most. Adora wiped her tears. And I fell in love with a man who taught me that honesty is the greatest gift we can give. Who showed me that love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other every day. As they kissed, Chioma cheered loudly, and Amara smiled through her tears. That night, after the celebrations had ended and guests had left, the family sat together on the balcony. Chioma was asleep on Adeora's lap. Chakotay's arm was around his wife's shoulders, and Amara sat nearby, content. Thank you, Chakotay said to Amara, for trusting us with your sister. Thank you for seeing her for who she truly is, Amara replied. And who is that? Adora asked, looking up at her husband. He smiled, kissing her forehead. The woman who taught me that love arrives in unexpected ways. Sometimes it comes dressed as someone else. Sometimes it comes twice, but when it's real, it stays forever. Below them, Legos breathed and pulsed with life. Millions of stories unfolding under the same stars. But in that mansion on Victoria Island, one particular story had found its happy ending. A billionaire had fallen in love with his daughter's nanny. She wasn't who he thought she was. She was so much more. And in the end, that made all the difference. Chioma stirred her sleep and murmured, I love you, Mama. Adeora's eyes filled with tears as she whispered back, I love you too, my princess. And Chakotay held them both close, his heart finally at peace, his home finally complete, his family finally whole. Because sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised. Sometimes they arrive in pairs. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person you need has been there all along, waiting for you to see past the surface to the beautiful truth beneath.